The new federal government has introduced its first piece of legislation outside of the throne speech, and it's a sweeping bill aimed at addressing border security. There's a whole lot in it, but here are some key highlights to share with you this evening. The bill would allow for, but set parameters on, law enforcement launching searches without warrants, as well as new powers for Canada Post to search mail, and give the government, the power to cancel, suspend, or change immigration documents for groups under certain circumstances. Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangaree is the lead minister on introducing this legislation. He's live with us in studio. Hi, Minister. It's good to see you again. Thank you for making the time.
Good to be back.
I have to start off with the breaking news out of the United States and the announcement via a proclamation from the White House that they're going to double steel and aluminum tariffs. We've combed through it. It looks like that does apply to Canada. Can you confirm whether that's the view of the federal government, that it will be a 50% tariff on Canadian aluminum and steel?
At this point, I can't confirm, but I know the Prime Minister will be making a statement later on today. But I can just say that it is deeply disappointing if it's true. It is also we've always maintained that these are illegal tariffs, and we are with workers every step of the way. This is, and I met with someone who has a manufacturing outfit in my community, and they're deeply impacted by this. Already, the tariffs that exist are already impacted. They'll be impacted even more. So my heart goes out to the workers, and just want to assure them that we will be there for them as a government.
On principle, is it the view of the federal government that you will double as well the counter tariffs?
Well, I'm going to let the Prime Minister address this issue because, this is breaking, as you said. It's important that, he's been the lead with respect to responding to President Trump, and I let him speak and comment on this later on today.
Just very quickly, though, you do sit on a committee that is focused on our own sovereignty and essentially responding to the new administration in the United States. In principle, again, I'll phrase the question, do you believe, given what your party campaigned on, for example, that the counter tariff should be commensurate?
Look, we believe that a response that is commensurate with what the United States does is important. We also believe that we need to continue the dialogue with the United States to resolve the outstanding issues. We are their best and closest trading partner. We're deeply disappointed at the actions over the last several months, and we know that we need, we will continue to stand up towards, protecting Canadian workers.
This bill that you introduced today, it is very broad. It is aimed, I think, primarily at addressing issues around border security. What is the specific problem, though, that you are trying to address? Or is this primarily about placating the United States and its concerns where the border is concerned?
There are two major elements to it. So first and foremost, when we campaigned this year, 5 weeks ago, the election concluded, people at the door told us that they're concerned about crime, they're concerned about the border, they're concerned about issues such as car theft, they're worried about extortion, they're worried about a range of things that relate to crime. And one of the major outlets we have is the border. And we know that, for example, guns, drugs, money, as well as illicit goods come across the border. Some of it goes south, but primarily it's a northern-bound enterprise. So we needed to ensure that we address that. We took some measures with the Borders Plan, $1.3 billion investments in strengthening the border, but we needed to do more legislatively. So we have put some measures in, including, for example, the ability of CBSA to have space in a port of entry where they can search outbound to not just the U.S., but around the world through seaports to be able to ascertain if there are stolen goods, for example, that are going out, or in the case of the U.S., making sure that it's not illicit drugs or any other items that may be prohibited in the U.S. So there's an important measure that addresses two very important things, equally important in my opinion, to ensure that the U.S. is satisfied that we're doing everything we can to address the issues around the border, but at the same time, doubling down on securing Canadians.
I'm glad you brought that example up because with great respect, I do have to challenge the idea that that now this is all warranted. I remember asking then Public Safety Minister, I think it was Dominic LeBlanc, over and over again when mayors were saying we need more powers to be able to inspect. The opposition was saying we need more powers to be able to find these stolen cars. And I was repeatedly told it's not the problem that it is being characterized as. Even the border itself, your government, under a different prime minister, repeatedly told us that the issue is not as Donald Trump is framing it. So again, I'll put the question to you, is this primarily just about placating the United States and ultimately justifying what you used to say was unjustified?
Look, what's important is that there are two key elements, right? First and foremost, we heard from Canadians in the election on April the 28th. They gave us a mandate to ensure that our borders are more secure than they have ever been. And as a result, we're bringing in measures that will strengthen the border. And of course, we've heard from the U.S. on some of the irritants that they have. I'll give you an example. On for example, issues around people who are going to the U.S. who may be part of our registry for sex offenders. The sharing of information has been an irritant for the U.S. for many, many years. They've identified it as early as 5 years ago when I met with the then ambassador. This was one of their top issues, and we're fixing that in this bill, because we know that right now I think 2 to 3 people a year are identified as high risk when they go to the U.S., and therefore the local law enforcement is aware that they're on a registry in Canada. That will expand. So that there's greater disclosure of those who are actually on a registry in Canada to U.S. authorities under certain circumstances. So it is.
But you're not just doing that. Again, with respect, Minister,
you're one of 14 measures that we're putting
increasing
forward.
The powers of law enforcement, right, to an almost unprecedented level. You're allowing Canada Post to do things that they haven't done before. Like, that is not a small deal for stuff that for 10 years you said was not a problem.
We have Prime Minister Mark Carney, who has clearly set an agenda to ensure that our borders are more secure, and we give law enforcement the right tools, including Canada Post, in terms of the flow of fentanyl, the small dose of fentanyl that still goes across, and vice versa. We want to make sure that the tools are available for law enforcement.
But if it's so small, again, why do you now feel the need to suppress certain rights that existed before?
With respect to rights, like the bill has safeguards in place. We are the party of the Charter. We respect the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In the throne speech, King Charles, I highlighted that as a fundamental tenet of this government. So the bill is a balanced bill that ensures the individual privacy rights, issues of due process when it comes to refugee asylum seekers, for example, and issues around the individual rights and liberties are protected, and safeguards are in place so that individual Canadian rights are not trampled upon. There's judicial oversight for many elements of the bill, and I believe we found the right balance. Actually, whenever we talk about national security issues around the border, the question often comes, are we suppressing the rights of individuals and liberties of individual Canadians? I believe we have found the balance that enables law enforcement to do their job that they've been, many issues that they've identified over the years. At the same time, ensuring that their safeguards are in place and Canadians can be secure that their privacy rights will be protected.
I just have a few seconds left, but I did want to conclude by asking, like, even when you bring up asylum and people who are seeking asylum, it has been years of provincial premiers, of local mayors raising issues about the system that your government put in place. If Donald Trump had not raised the issues he had raised, would you have introduced this bill?
I believe we would have had many elements of the bill in here. For example,
would you have done this if there weren't Donald Trump?
I can't, I can't say. What I can say is that this bill entrenches many important elements of securing the border, and that's exactly what we're doing here.
Okay, I will leave it on that note. Minister, a pleasure to see you. Thank you for making the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.